doing things for the sake of doing them is not necessarily conducive with either good productivity or a good outcome for what it is that you're doing. Same as multitasking is really not necessarily the best thing for a good outcome. Do something, then do something else. Don't do a bit of something, then a bit of something, then a bit of something, then a bit of something. So like at work, lunchtime comes and everyone goes, it's time to go to lunch, but I've got 3 bolts that are in but not done up. I'll do those 3 bolts up instead of walking away. That's how multitasking works, is things get forgotten, things get neglected because you're too busy trying to work out what you're doing on the previous thing or the next thing, whereas you should just finish the specific task you're doing. Okay, so you don't want to fold all the laundry, fold some of it and put it away. Then that's done. That's not really multitasking anymore. That's now, well, partially completing a task. But then if you've put that shit away, you know you've put that shit away. It doesn't matter that there's more laundry. But people's brains don't seem to work that way. I can really, really only focus on one thing at once. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other shit running through my head, but can I moderate that content to a point that makes it a productive part of what I'm trying to do here? It's very, very, very unlikely. There's the part of your brain that's going to find the words that you need and the thoughts that I need to continue on forward. But anyway, little boxes. So everything we do is little boxes on the hillside. Little boxes made of ticky-tacky. Little boxes on the hillside, and they all look just the same. It's what we tend to do. We go, oh, that looks really good, let's do the exact same thing. Oh, that looks really good, let's do the exact same thing. But it's never the exact same thing. It's never exactly fit for purpose. So you look at housing estates, right? So we know a few people that have moved into new housing estates. Now they have a 2-car garage, but the 2-car garages are the same size that the 2-car garages were when they were built in the 50s or 60s, probably 70s, when cars were much, much smaller or people didn't even have 2 cars. So your 2-car garage that they built in the 50s had the mower and the boots and so if you didn't have a mudroom in your house, the half the garage was the mudroom. The mudroom is where you got your wet boots and your wet clothes and your bicycles and all the other shit that children drag in. And then you've got your 1 car that parks in there. But then they brought out giant SUVs, giant 4-wheel drives, patrols, Falcons, lowered, raised stuff. And then you've got to have the camper and the jet skis and the motorbikes and the everything else. So you've got a 2-car garage. And all you've got in your 2-car garage is your ride-on mower for your 200 square meters of lawn, your whippersnipper, your chainsaw, your boat on the trailer. Your camper trailer's got to go and park in the driveway. You can't actually fit a car in the garage because you've got so much other shit that you've probably never even touched for years. So then your wife's car's parked on the driveway because it can't be parked on the street because it's just too far for her to carry the shit that she's either taking back to Vinnie's or just bought from Vinnie's. So then you've got your giant jacked up SUV 4-wheel drive patrol Land Cruiser thing with giant tires on it. That's got to be parked in the street, but the street's only a lane and a half wide, so all your neighbours are also parked in the street, and then the fuckers across the road, they're also parked on the street. So you've got to gently, slowly at 5 kilometres an hour drive down the road and hope that your mirrors don't either hit giant piss off 4-wheel drive tyres or whack other people's mirrors. This is what we do, and it's quite daft. And we allow them to do it. So I'm... Oi. Come on. Sorry, dog's barking. And we allow it to happen. And then we allow the councils to give permission to these developers. So you can blame the developers all you want, but if the councils didn't give them permission to build tiny little bloody roads, well, we've already got issues. And then they'll move 10,000 people into an area on a road that was barely adequate for the job in the first place, but then they won't upgrade the road. Or if they do upgrade the road, it's like a kilometre in either direction of the estate. So people have still got to drive down a goat track. The traffic's in the cities And yes, it's not just traffic. Technically it would be traffics, because I'm not talking about the traffic where you are. I'm talking about all the different lots of traffic about the place. So technically, you could just add an S to it. It makes it traffics. Getting worse and worse. It took us 5 hours to do a trip that normally takes 40 minutes on the weekend, and that was going from our house in Brisbane. That it's like 8 minutes, 10 minutes to the freeway, and then it should be a straight run all the way down to the southern Gold Coast, but no, 5 hours. And it was like at 1 o'clock on a Friday. We keep not applying what we've learnt to things. So I'm not anti-progress in any way, shape or form. It just things have to be progress. Building more and more and more and more estates on smaller and smaller and smaller blocks that aren't really fitting any more people, that aren't making anyone's lives easier, because they've now got to commute further and spend more time in traffic and burn more fuel. Maybe there's a method to that madness for the people selling shit. But why not make the roads wider? Well, the council doesn't want you to do it because they get a couple of grand a year from every single house. So if the developers can build an extra 100 houses, there's an extra, $200,000 for them to supply inadequate shit and never actually fix anything properly. Yeah, we as people, we as consumers, we as a society need to pay far more attention to what's being done, how it's being done, and we need to have far more say or vote in far better people that are more adequately equipped to make legitimate decisions, or much, much smaller government on a much, much smaller scale in a much, much more localized way. But that's my thoughts on that. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but everything is tiny boxes and they're getting smaller and they're getting crowdeder. Is that even a word? Anyway, guess what I didn't do?